My name is Ebony P Jones, and something that I care deeply about and love doing is actually two things that I try very hard to put together. I love writing, and I also love advocating for the differently able community. Well, my disability is spastic cerebral palsy, and I was born with it, but I wasn't diagnosed until I was 2 years of age. It's something I'm used to. Like, I don't know a life outside of cerebral palsy. Some things that I've encountered with talking to people that don't know much about cerebral palsy is the first thing they say is it hereditary? Like, can it be passed down? And I always tell them, no, it's a birth defect. Well, I recognized that I was different right off the bat as I got older because I'm my mom's oldest, and she has 4 kids, but I was the only one born differently able. But my mom never treated me as anything was different, so I don't act as anything is different. Just got to do things a little differently. Well, my mom, she always made me feel very included. She took me everywhere, wheelchair or not. She made it her business to, because I was born in Chicago, to find a doctor that would help me. That's how we ended up in Milwaukee. And I had surgeries, and she had me in therapy every day after school to get me where I am. I didn't start walking until I was 11 years old. I was wheelchair bound until I was 11 years old. And like, as I started going through the school system, schooling was amazing for me. I got like talked about, your little talked about that you usually go through, but I never got like severely bullied or anything like that. But when I started college, things kind of took a turn because I went to school for early childhood education. The purpose of me going to school for early childhood education was to encourage kids that were differently able like myself, that they could do the same things that other people were doing very differently. And I was doing so well in all of the classes. And when I got to the final class, my professor failed me because she said I was an endangerment to children because of my different ability. I guess that was her way of saying that I was incapable of taking care of children. I cried. I did not attend my graduation because I fell into depression. And then it started making me look at myself differently. So I kind of was on a downward spiral for about at least a good year. It took me a while to get over that. Once she said that, I put it in my mind that I didn't want to have any children or didn't want to work with children. But one thing that helped me get over it was my family, my support system for sure, my faith in God, but a lot of journaling, because I never was ashamed of having cerebral palsy. I never was ashamed at all. And once she made that statement to me, it did make me change my career path, and it made me focus more on becoming an advocate and a voice for the differently able community. Well, since being told that I was an endangerment to children, I actually have a child. He is 9 years old. He is able-bodied, and I'm also a wife. So it's like everything that everybody thought I wasn't going to be able to accomplish, I'm doing that and more. My husband is able-bodied. So I would just encourage people that are differently able and not differently able to actually sit down and have a conversation, because we tend to look at the outside and judge strictly off of that and categorize each other. But all along, we're kind of dealing with the same things, just in different shells. So how I live life different because I have cerebral palsy, honestly, it's very simple. Things just have to be lowered because, for one, I'm short, and it just makes it easier to reach. I do have to walk with a quad cane that I call Tamika, by the way. She has a personality. The most adaptations that I really needed was when I was pregnant. Bars had to be added to the tub just so I could carry that extra weight. I also started a nonprofit back in 2018 of August, and it is Ebony P Ministries, to encourage people that are differently abled and not to take the limits off of themselves and Tap into what's inside of them. Trust who they are. Trust how God designed them, because it's so much misunderstanding about the differently able community that I put on events to bring the two communities together, but at the same time, empower them. Like, I put on inclusion fashion shows to bring differently able models and able-bodied models together. I encourage the person to be just who they are, flaws and all, because if we were all the same, it would be boring. And now that Corona's here, I do a lot of things via Zoom. Well, as far as my faith in God, I am a Christian and I have been a part of Abiding Faith Fellowship Church for about 10, 11 years. But when I was younger, people did always want to pray my healing and ask what did my mom do for me to become this way. But I always say that if God wanted me to be able-bodied, he would have made me able-bodied. Me having cerebral palsy is part of my purpose. It's part of my push, because it's someone that has cerebral palsy just like me that needs to see me so that they can understand they can do the same things that I'm doing. And I didn't have that. Well, I have written a total of 6 books, preferably soon to be 7. The first book that I wrote was my autobiography, which I entitled What is Cerebral Palsy to a Queen. I also wrote 2 devotional journals, Withdrawals and Deposits 1 and 2. Then I also wrote a children's book called What Makes Me Special. Then I have another devotional called Tap Into You Devotional. And then the final book, as of right now, it's entitled Trust Your Process. And I wrote that book just explaining how God helped me get to the stage that I am right now. What I would say to someone that is living with cerebral palsy, or someone that just found out a family member is diagnosed with cerebral palsy, treat them like nothing is wrong with them. Make adaptations, but don't make adaptations where they become dependent. Let them be independent and bring them around other people that have the same thing that they have and that are doing things that they would like to do, so that they can know that they are capable of doing those things too. And I didn't say this earlier, but I don't say disabled, because we're not disabled. That's why I keep saying differently able. We can do everything everybody else does. We just have to do it a little bit differently. And prayerfully, when Corona is over, I can go out and visit other states like I was doing before Corona started. And I'm just going to keep advocating and keep helping people find their voice and find their strength and love who they are, because that's important.